Welcome everybody to the Area 111 live stream. This is your host RH coming at you again from Florida, the beautiful Sunshine State. We got that echo in the background. There's a lot to cover today. Uh, I was going to take a break. Of course, I asked for prayers for Mrs. RH the other night because her mother had to take her to the hospital, to the emergency room last week, and she had a stroke. She fell. Uh, I had to help get her up uh, from the floor, and she was dizzy. That started to happen the Friday before Memorial Day, where she was getting dizzy in the pizza place because she wanted a pizza. I went to take her to get a pizza, and she's getting dizzy. It's really hot in that pizza place, by the way. But even for me, Florida native. Anyways, she went up to ask for a cup so she could get some water while we were waiting for our pizza, and she couldn't carry it. I had to carry it to the truck, and she was getting dizzy, having dizzy spells, and then on Labor Day evening or at late afternoon, she fell. I had to get her up and get her up on the bed, and basically she couldn't walk uh, because she had the stroke. She fell and bruised her hip really, really bad, and I had to rush over to her mom's house and get her because her mom's been kind of like taking charge of her health care, not as a doctor or anything, as her mother and caring for her for many years. But anyways, she got her blood pressure and it was over 200. The top number was over 200. I think the lower number was like 115 or something like that. It was extremely high. Uh, so she got her to take her blood pressure medication, which wasn't helping. It was the wrong blood pressure medication. And she calmed her down and got her blood pressure down a little bit. And then she let her sleep. And then uh, she she came back the next day. I called her back the next day to check on her blood pressure again because she had the machine, and it was still really, really high, and she's dizzy and couldn't walk. So her mother decided to take her to the hospital, to the emergency room, and she had all these tests ran, and they basically concluded that she had a stroke and she has hypertension, and they had to moderately take her blood pressure down because it's very dangerous if you try to take someone's high blood pressure down at that critical level. Uh, where it's back to normal. If you do it too fast, I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying what the doctor said. The healthcare providers at Lakeland Regional basically said to her mother, uh, you know, but her mother's her next of kin. Um, but I won't go into the personal stuff. She's been a really good friend of mine for 15 years. But anyways, uh, she had all the tests run. Her, you call it, her thyroid was really out of whack, and her medications were messed up. That was part of the cause of her high blood pressure. They had her on the wrong high blood pressure medication, and they started giving her the proper blood pressure medication at the Lakeland Regional at the emergency room, and basically got her down, and she was able to return. Her mother's taking a very close eye on her. I'm helping her the best I can under my situation, but I asked for prayers, and I want to talk about that a little bit before I get into tonight's live stream. A lot of information to unpack. I found out some very disturbing information. I've talked about this before many times on this channel. If you haven't viewed this channel, and you still have to watch what you say. So these people, um, this is in memory of 9/11. Now, if you if you didn't see the place card holder video on far as 9/11, you have to go to C-SPAN and basically type in Iraqi situation. Okay, that was dated. That's basically military terms. We call it situation report. Okay, go to C-SPAN and type in Iraqi situation, February 17th of 1998, and you will be able to get Bill Clinton's own words. We're at, I put it in, like brackets, 01 9 11. I put in brackets 01 9 in brackets and 11 in brackets for y'all to take note. What was President Bill Clinton talking about during that Joint Chiefs press conference? At that point, President Clinton was saying the American people have to be ready as well, referring to go back to war in Iraq on the grounds of Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction. Now, I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything wrong. Everybody in America that are American citizens, at least, and I think even people here legally as like on a visa or whatever, green card, everyone here is supposed to be guaranteed due process of the law, but it didn't really work out that well for President Trump when they're maliciously trying to prosecute him and falsely imprison him. Didn't really work out. President Trump didn't really have all his due process rights because they wouldn't hear it. They wouldn't take it in as evidence. So in my opinion, okay. So anyways, so I have to be careful of everything you word nowadays because I've already started censoring me on other social media platform, actually deleting stuff from my social media platform. I shared a link of Dave's interview with Devin Nunes, okay, and they deleted it right away. You know that Devin Nunes he's like the CEO of like like I think True Social or whatever, however that works, and they were just talking about future aspects of that. Social media people took it down immediately, and they said they didn't allow that content to be put on my social media. All I did was post the link. X22 interview with Devin Nunes. So if you want to go over to X22, as far as I remember, his name is Dave. Really good interview, a lot of insight about what's going on there. As far as if you're searching for the truth without, being censored, that's a great place to go. So, anyways, now my heart and prayers goes out to all those that have lost loved ones in 9/11. And we will never forget, and we'll never forget any of the perpetrators of 9/11, that were part of criminal activity or, conspiring to commit that act of terrorism and being part of that terrorism one way, shape, or form or the other. They need to be held accountable. And we thought there was going to be a lot of stuff coming out, in the last 3 days, and there probably has. But the shooting of Charlie Kirk, the assassination, we're all focused on that. I want to bring up some very, very important things here, real quick. Okay. I want to share some information that I've posted many times on my channel in the past. Now, the source references of my show, the contents, the source reference contents or links are placed on my True Social platform for the most part. Now, a couple of live streams previous to this tonight, I talked about basically murderers walking free as free men and women on our streets in America. Now, it's kind of obvious. I'm not, you know, if I don't consider myself a prophet, I consider myself a freelance investigative journalist without pay since 2009. So I've been doing hundreds and hundreds and thousands of hours of research far as into a lot of these topics that you might term as current events, or politics, or what's going on around in our country and around in the world, as far as that goes. And some of that, it comes from the perspective of being a career retired Air Force veteran, and far as what I experienced being a veteran. Now, I'm going to point out a few things that is obvious for me, again, as far as the security of the event, the Charlie Kirk event there at Utah at the university. I'm going to point out some obvious, security breaches of the perimeter in that far as that as well. I talked many times about the security breaches of Butler, okay, and the security breach at the golf course regarding Ryan Ruth. Now, again, my heart and prayers goes out to all those that lost loved ones in 9/11 or who later passed away due to injuries or ailments or sicknesses as attributed to 9/11. Okay, so good to see you. Search for Truth, Kenneth. Everybody that's here, Kenny, great to see you again. And I appreciate you again for your prayers for Helen, and that she recovers quickly and is able to walk on her own again, and so there's a lot of problems with that. And as far as, and I don't apologize for anybody praying. I ask for prayers, and that she has a fast and speedy recovery back to full speed. So, anyways, so again, 9/11. Okay, so what's important for me to basically, I put a lot of information out there on the 10th of September on True Social. So please, if you have a chance on True Social, please follow me on True Social and look at the source references regarding 9/11. Okay. Now, I talked about the Northern Alliance. I like to say again, partisan, the Northern Alliance, and we're talking about the pallets of cash, where that went. Okay. Who the coalition was of the Northern Alliance up to the end of December timeframe of 2001. Okay. Why the Northern Alliance disbanded. Okay. So the Northern Alliance mission was to basically take back over Kabul, take back over Afghanistan for the Islamic State of Afghanistan. Okay, that was basically the motive. Now, the Northern Alliance was basically began in 2002. Now, I like to talk a little bit about the Southern and Northern no-fly zone operation in Iraq, which was ongoing. A lot of the players that were in the coalition with the United States, as far as the Northern Alliance, they were involved in operations going back to Desert Storm and Desert Shield. Now let me talk about this real quick because it's pertinent as far as the information I've researched, and basically, I'm like I said, I'm not accusing anybody of wrongdoing. These are just this is just sources and informations, and let y'all come to your own conclusion. Okay, so the Northern Alliance players, along with the United States, NATO. Okay, they call that a non-state player. That's an organization. NATO is an organization. Okay, you might put in the other three I's if you want to. Okay, the UK was involved in the Northern Alliance. I think Australia was involved in the Northern Alliance. Okay, so those are state actors. So not only were involved as far as NATO goes, they were also state actors as coalition partners to basically working kind of like simultaneously in Iraq and Afghanistan until the end of December. Now, remember, the end of December of 2001, a couple of months after 9/11, maybe 3 months, okay, the Northern Alliance disbanded. And they basically shifted their main military operations to Iraq. Now, this is all out there in the public domain. Don't blame RH. I'm not leaking classified information. This is information that anybody can, at their fingertips, can just do a search on these source references and read all the information for yourself. Okay, so we're never really out of war in Iraq after Desert Storm because we bombed Saddam Hussein's presidential palaces. Okay, a lot of his relatives were killed in those strikes in Desert Storm. That was, I think, January 17th of 1991. A lot of his relatives were killed. In my opinion, this is my opinion, Saddam Hussein was never going to sit around a campfire sing Kumbaya with the West or the United States or anybody in the Northern Coalition. Now, let's go back to the Northern Coalition. The participants, again, I state, NATO was a part of a coalition working with the United States and the Islamic State of Afghanistan to take back over Kabul and take back over charge of Afghanistan, and was to basically target and eliminate Al-Qaeda leaders. So use your own logic and reasoning why the Northern Alliance disbanded at the end of December of 2001. Now, I'd like to say this because, and moving on really quick, because I'm going to cover all this information in a shorter period of time. Remember, on December 26th of 2001, Fox News put out a report. You can go basically Google that yourself. And I'll go back to the Northern Alliance, but this is important. The reason why they disbanded, one of the reasons why they disbanded, they took back over Kabul, mission accomplished, and they took out the Taliban and the leaders, and they took back over the government. They got the government back in charge in Afghanistan. Okay, so they were targeting Al Qaeda leaders. That was a major, and the Taliban. That was a major operational mission. That was their objectives. Okay, so they disbanded at the end of December of 2001. The Northern Alliance did, and they started focusing all their military operation attention on Iraq. Okay, on December 26, 2001, Fox News put out a report, Bin Laden already dead. Bin Laden already dead. While everybody's focusing on the holidays at the end of December, around Christmas time and all that stuff, on December 26th, Fox News put out the report, Bin Laden already dead. Now, Fox News put out an update on the same report that Bin Laden was already dead on January 13th of 2015. That was approximately 4 years after Operation Neptune Spear. I want people to understand that. This isn't our age out there just making stuff up as it goes along. Okay? And remember, this is all out there in the public domain. I cannot stress this enough. Okay, major players of the Northern Alliance. Remember what their objective was to take out the Taliban, take back over to Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, and basically and take out the leaders of Al Qaeda operating in Afghanistan. So the Northern Alliance disbanded. The players of the Northern Alliance, I want people to pay very close attention to what I'm about to say. NATO, non-state members. State members. Russia, non-state member. Non-state. There were belligerent Soviet Union country era belligerents. They were not like belligerents. They wasn't basically the enemy, but they were not helping the Northern Alliance, Soviet Union. But Russia was a major ally with the Northern Alliance to complete the mission. Iran. Remember Iran and the Iraq wars? Iran was working with the Northern Alliance. Remember the Palace of Cash? Ukraine, member of the Northern Alliance. Remember the caches? Remember the caches that RH talked about? And you'll hear other people talking about caches too. Remember the Palace of Cash? Was that silence money, bribery money? I don't know. Okay, so now you have all this information. There's more. There's all the source references on True Social. I'm at Area 111. That's my profile on True Social. Go get the source references. Now we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk's. Oh man, my heart and prayers goes out to Charlie Kirk's family and all his friends. I mean, he had so many friends. He was blessed to have so many friends and have a platform to speak on behalf of us, people in our community, and I tell you what, in my opinion, he was given the highest honor from the White House, from the President of the United States, and he deserved it. I mean, very, very brave individual, young individual, had his whole life in front of him, had 2 young kids and wife left behind with this tragic, horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, I want to bring up something, and I'm not accusing anybody of doing something again wrong. Okay, this is information again. Everybody can go out there and research on their own, right? So to get these answers, to get this information, whatever you're looking for, I pretty much covered it on these topics. Now I'm going to look over here on Rumble real quick. Now I did share the link over on Rumble. Okay, it says we're live. Okay, I'm still being throttled back quite a bit. even on Rumble. Back in the day, I'm just going to say this real quick in case people come in here and say, okay, well, there's only 2 viewers. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, whatever. That's fine. You have a right to your opinion. But back in the day, before they started deplatforming all these social media channels, I had thousands of viewers on single live streams. I would probably have millions of followers now on Rumble and probably on YouTube if they didn't start deplatforming me. And basically, I lost connection. And they basically really did a job on a number on RH's channels. So anyways, I'm not whining about it. I know, and I'm going to say this one thing right now. You better stop sending out those surveillance of black sedans in front of my home. I'm going to get people the legal way to stop this sickness of these individuals. I've earned the right, like every other citizen. You have earned the right, God-given right of free speech. So we have that God-given rights. Those are God-given, endowed by our Creator. Unalienable rights. Those are our rights. You cannot take them away. No matter what you do, acts of terrorism or threats of terrorism, no matter what you do, you can't take away our rights. Now, and some might even call me a hothead. Okay, I get emotional. I have a lot of passion about what I speak about, like a lot of people out there. It doesn't make me a bad person. Now, I can tell you right now, people out there that say, if you raise your voice, whatever, at other people, that's, abuse, and, you can be. Could you imagine all the military men and women, especially like going through a basic training? You think that our RTIs, our training instructors, our drill instructors for military men and women, you think they were sitting there, okay, now, Airman RH, for example. Airman RH, you said that I raised my voice at you. Okay, RH, I understand I shouldn't be doing that. I want you to go sit in the corner right now, and you need to, I'll calm down, okay? And you go sit in the corner, okay? We'll work this out, whatever. I don't want to get into this, but I'm a law-abiding, God-fearing, respectful man. I don't support lawless violence on anyone. Everybody has supposed to have due process of law, and they're supposed to be presumed to be they're innocent until presumed to be innocent until found guilty in a court of law. That's the way our system works. If there are people in our country that are here, maybe in the wrong way, and you don't like that, then maybe you need to go back to wherever you came from. If you don't like free speech, and we're not talking about going out there and libel slandering, that's not free speech. That's against the law. That's a civil violation, right? That goes to the civil court. Defamation, I don't know anybody else out there in the world other than President Trump that has been defamed or libel slandered more than any person probably on this planet, in the history of this planet. Okay, so anyways, I want to talk about this now, and I'm going to give you the source reference, and please go check it out. I follow this channel. The channel on YouTube is called Sell Daddy, SALE, Daddy 1. Go to that YouTube channel and basically shared, I think it was today, probably in the last few hours, because this is how fast this stuff goes. he brought up a screenshot of a book that he said was already written 2 days before the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Now, I'm going to give you the title of the book. This is what unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh, man, I just caught it. I just had to get back on there. They nearly took me down again. So, okay, so if you're ever viewing one of my live streams, like, Area 111 or whatever, or the former RH channels, uh, if you hear dead air time, which means you can't hear me talking anymore, uh, just fast forward the video until you hear me talking again. Okay, this happens to me quite a bit. They're still throttling me back, shadow banning me, and basically doing the best they can where they can obstruct my free speech from getting out there to help inform people that are listening, that care to listen. So 2 days before, now again, this was on Cell Dotty One YouTube channel. I can get the link, but I'm afraid I'll lose the channel. So it's one of his last live streams or videos he put up on YouTube. So go check it out. Now he got a screenshot. He got a screenshot of the Amazon Kindle book. Now I'm going to talk about Kindle book because I'm a published author. A lot of people don't know that. I'm not here to sell books or promote myself. This is an informational channel. But like I said before, I have not required anybody to subscribe, pay a subscription fee, whatever this channel. I've been doing this for free just to get the information out. Okay. And share the information. And hopefully it falls on the right ears. The right ears meaning the real officials out there that have the power to actually do something about these criminal acts and these criminal conspiracies to, like what they try to do at Butler. And I won't go into any more details about that. Okay, the book was already written according to Cell Daddy One channel on YouTube, titled The Shooting of Charlie Kirk. Did y'all hear that? The shooting of Charlie Kirk, 2 days before the shooting. Now, remember when you do a Kindle book, you can basically cut and paste stuff together, right? Where you can already have the chapters, you have the outline already filled out, whatever, and you already have it in the right PDF or audio format with pictures, whatever. If you have pictures, so this book, even though you can do a book like that really fast by cutting and pasting, right, and then putting it in the right format. So in and of itself, probably somebody saw, okay, heard threats made about towards Charlie Kirk prior to the shooting, the horrible shooting. And again, my heart and prayers goes out to, Charlie Kirk's family and his friends, and it's a tragic loss for America, and I could say probably for the entire world. So, anyways, the book's title, the Kindle title book of the book, which is on Amazon, if you want to find it yourself, The Shooting of Charlie Kirk. That's the title of the book that supposedly was already written 2 days before Charlie Kirk's death. Okay, it was by the author of the book, by Anastasia J. Casey. That's Anastasia J. Casey, Casey. Okay, that's out there on Kindle. Now I'm gonna basically bring everyone's attention. I've talked about this multiple times before in other channels, but not very many. Not very many. And I'm not accusing anybody doing anything wrongdoing. Okay? Things move a lot quicker than they did back in before September 11, 2001. Things work a lot quicker. Yeah, it's just all you need is a clicker, right? A mouse. Click, click, copy and paste, right? You basically got a whole book and already written up. But if it was already set up with that title, they probably had all the stuff that their grievances because of Charlie Kirk's free speech. They couldn't handle it. They got triggered or whatever they got, so they probably had this book pretty much already written. This person, and like I said, I'm not accusing this author of any wrongdoing, but I do think it needs to be investigated. I believe the appropriate officials, they need to investigate this, because I do believe it was a broader criminal conspiracy. Now, the shooter or those conspirators, okay. Now, I do believe that they used the same playbook that was used at Butler when they put President Trump in a kill box. Why am I saying that? Okay, I've been in charge working for the security officer when I was on duty during combat training exercise, field training exercise. I've been involved in setting up perimeters, setting up security teams, working for the security officer, setting up checkpoints, and basically clearing the area, doing a site survey of the area, make sure there was no possible, areas or whatever, strategic points for somebody to set up, a kill box on us, whatever. Okay. So I've been involved in that probably 4 or 5 years. I'm still friends with my boss, the security officer. Still friends with people I served with. So people want to say, oh, you're just trying to embellish your career for whatever reason. Let's use aliens. Okay, for example, or whatever, whatever, more power to you. If you believe that, then okay, well, I can't. You have a right to believe whatever you want to. Okay. But that's the God's honest truth. Putting out concertina wire, razor wire, however you want to term that, setting up checkpoints, where armed checkpoints. Remember, those are sim over live operations. The live operations, those carrying live ammunition during combat field training exercises, that's a sim over live type operation. I've been part of those many, many times during my career, little over 21 years. So, in my opinion, they set up President Trump in a kill box in 2 places, at the golf course and at Butler. There should have been no way, and any military man or woman worth his or her salt would agree with me, that has helped set up site security and done site security surveys, make sure people like a Ryan Ruth isn't supposedly camping out all night long, setting up a kill box to take out the President of the United States. So, listen, I'm not promoting violence. This is a law and order channel. I'm a law and order, God-fearing, respecting individual. I don't support lawlessness in any shape or form. I'm not promoting it. This is informational purposes. This stream is for informational purposes. So you can go out there and I provide the source references. And I've already entertained having people, if you got something that I'm asking for critical, what do you call that? Criticism. You can criticize this channel. You can criticize me. If I make a mistake, please put the information in the comment section so I can review it after the live stream. If I made any mistakes, I will make the necessary changes. Okay? Nobody, far as my knowledge, has ever done that. And I ask for correction. If you hear me make a mistake, I'm human. I'll make a mistake every now and then. I'll say something, maybe the wrong date or wrong person, whatever. I've done that a few times. I used to go back and be on my own critical, what do you call it? Critic. I'm my best critic because I'll go back and review the channel. When I used to have time, I don't really have much time anymore. So I'm trying to get better and making sure I don't make any mistakes. But again, we're all human. We're not all knowing too. We're not all knowing. For anybody to say that, they got to basically believe they're God because they think they're all knowing. You know, make up your own channel, whatever. All knowing. So, anyways, and I won't go into that any more than what I had. Now, so where have we seen something similar to this before happening? I'm going to use an example. Now, again, these are my opinions, but I'm going to give you all the source references so y'all can make your own opinions. Again, you don't set up somebody like that, especially that's had, threats made towards that individual or individuals plural. You don't set them up in a unsecured kill box and allow somebody to get an elevated position to have a clear target. That's what happened at Butler. Remember the former, I guess you call it, director of the U.S. Secret Service? She said she never reviewed a site security plan. All the red flags went up, which I heard her say that during a congressional session while she was under oath. The director of the U.S. Secret Service never reviewed a site security plan? That's what I'm talking about. That's at least criminal negligence. Remember, Corey died. I forgot his Coppertone. He died. Remember, a family man, I think a fireman, a first responder. Great guy. A couple other people were severely injured in that attack. So, anyways, I'm going to, now where have we seen this before? Where have I seen this before? I'm going to direct your attention to an article, a Vanity Fair article titled Hillary Clinton Cannot Be Stopped. Now, this is from Vanity Fair. Hillary Clinton cannot be stopped. Cannot, compound word, all one word. Hillary Clinton cannot be stopped. That's the Vanity Fair article, January 20th of 2016. I'm only going to read the first paragraph. Now, this article was written by T.A. Frank. T.A. initials Frank. This article was written or published by the Vanity Fair on January 24th of 2016. Now, I'm going to read the first paragraph. For the second time in 8 years, Hillary Clinton sees the Democratic nomination be pawed by a charming interloper, like a priceless vase grabbed by a panda. She'd prefer to shoot the panda, but that could mean breaking the vase, and onlookers would object. To make matters worse, Bernie Sanders, who leads Clinton in both New Hampshire and Iowa, has produced a new video ad, America, a wordless feel hope montage that is awfully good enough that I can't help feeling both moved by it and resentful that it works on me. Maybe shoot the panda. Now, going back to the book was already written from an author, Anastasia J. Casey. The Shooting of Charlie Kirk. That's out on Kindle. You can get it on Amazon. That's like an ebook, right? So remember how quick you can do that. Now, I'm not accusing anybody doing this, but I like to draw to your all's attention. I got to get a date here. Okay. So I don't need to be fact checked. We're going to share both those dates, January 24th of 2016. We're going to share another date. Okay, we're going to Seth Rich's bio. Seth Rich's bio. We're going to move really quick here. The murder of Seth Rich occurred on July 10th of 2016 at 4:20 a.m. in the Bloomingdale neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Seth Rich died about an hour and a half after being shot twice in the back. Okay, let's go back to this article again. Remember, from Vanity Fair. That was written in advance. For the second time in 8 years, Hillary Clinton sees the Democratic nomination being pawed by a charming interloper. Okay, that name, charming interloper. Okay, that's another term. That wasn't, in my opinion, talking about Bernie Sanders, because let's RH is going to fact check you, not fact check the listeners. I'm going to fact check myself again. Senator Bernie Sanders. He wasn't an interloper. He'd been a politician way before President Trump was running for office. Remember, he threw his hat into the ring back on in June of 2015. Way before June, or no, January 24th of 2016. Bernie Sanders wasn't the interloper she was talking about, or Vanity Fair was talking about, I should say. Excuse me, Hillary Clinton did not write that article. Okay. Stand by. Pull up his bio. Bernie Sanders was born September 8th of 1941. Is an American politician and activist serving as the senior United States Senator from Vermont, a seat he has held since 2007. He's the longest serving independent in the United States. Okay. I won't read anymore. Okay. He was not the interloper. Now, I got word from a 4-star, a person that got to the ranks of 4 stars. And he also told me he agreed that President Trump was the interloper. President Trump was the interloper. Okay, so let's go back and read this article again. So remember, that article was written in advance, maybe signaling. July 10th of 2016 at 4:20 a.m. We believe he may have had a thumb drive or drives in his possession, or maybe even a laptop. And I believe they said that they called it a botched robbery, right? He was rushed. He was shot in the back twice. Okay, I believe in the back. Both shots hit him in the back. Okay. Let's go back to this again. For the second time, let's put in the, instead of using aliases or whatever, or those names, for the second time in 8 years, Hillary Clinton sees the Democratic nomination being pawed by the charming interloper, Donald J. Trump, like a priceless vase grabbed by a panda. Okay? Panda, they gave Seth Rich the nickname Panda because he had a love for pandas. That was his nickname. Seth Rich's nickname was Panda. I've gotten that from many reliable sources that knew Seth Rich. Okay, remember, I'm not accusing anybody. Everybody's presumed to be innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. Thank you, Tracy. Good to see you here. Tanya, everybody that's here, thank you for being here. Okay, again, this article, why, or Hillary Clinton, not why, Hillary Clinton cannot be stopped. This was, remember, so we're looking at possible premeditated conspiracies like the Russia deal. Now, remember, they medevac President Trump to U.S. Army Hospital Reed, Walter Reed. What did they give Trump when he first got there? Okay, I won't go into it any further. Remember, there was a warning on that. I'm not a scientist or nothing. I'm going by what I saw with my own eyes. There's a warning about what they gave President Trump first if you take an HCQ. Remember that? I've even shared the NIH's own chloroquine potent inhibitor of the infection and spread of, you know what? That goes all the way back to 2005 or 2008. I can't remember which. Remember, Bernie Sanders was in office since 2007, right? That's what I just read off. 2007. A U.S. senator. So he's not an interloper. Interloper, what's the definition of an interloper? Somebody unwanted that just happenstance comes along, right? Remember, they called Trump a clown, right? So these are interloper, a person who becomes involved in a place or situation where they are not wanted or are considered to belong. So they're talking about, remember, code words, panda, giving them nicknames, whatever, try to divert what they're actually messaging here. Okay, Think about the other three eyes. Remember the other three eyes? UK, Australia, New Zealand. Canada, and the United States. But think about the other four eyes: Australia, New Zealand, Canada. And I want you to focus your attention on the Vanity Fair and why President Trump didn't go to that after party. You know what I mean? They have. I'm not going to go any further because that's basically just a conspiracy theory of mine. Whatever you can call it, conspiracy theory. There was no love loss. Let's just say love loss from the founders or the owners of Vanity Fair and Donald Trump. Let's just say that. Okay. They did not want the guy in office. Let's just say it the way it is. Now, I'm not saying that it involved in any criminal activity. Person who belonged, interloper. President Trump was loved by everyone pretty much before he started to run for office, right? Before he became an interloper, right? Bernie Sanders been around that scene since 2007. A U.S. senator. He didn't just happenstance lope along and basically say, "Oh, I'm going to run for president," right? No, he didn't. They're basically saying, what's the title of the article? Hillary Clinton cannot be stopped. She's going to be the, nominee, right? She's going to go forward. Remember, July 10th of 2016. Seth Rich lived till July 10th, 2016. Okay, let's read this first paragraph again. For the second time in 8 years, Hillary Clinton sees the Democratic nomination be appalled by the charming interloper. I'm going to fill in the blanks. Donald John Trump, like a priceless vase grabbed by a panda. Now, why would you shoot a vase? The priceless vase, of course, they're referring to there as the presidency, right? Like the presidency grabbed by a panda. She preferred to shoot the panda, but that could mean breaking the vase, breaking her attempts to be president of the United States, and onlookers would object. Yeah. How many people that was there in Utah that was looking at the shooting objected to what happened? Millions and millions of people object to maybe billions of people object to what happened to Charlie Kirk. Isn't that a fair assumption? To make matters worse, Bernie Sanders, who leads Clinton in both, why call first Bernie Sanders in the mysterious way a charming interloper once everybody knows who he was, right? No, everybody knew who Donald Trump was. They called him a clown, right? I just thought he was running to be a clown, right? Remember all those articles, even by the, what do you call that? Associated Press and all that stuff, you know what I mean? They all called him, I don't know if Associated Press, Associate AP basically said that or not, but you know what I'm saying, right? She preferred to shoot the panda. Again, Seth Rich's nickname was known by his loved ones as the panda. But that would mean breaking the vase, and onlookers would object. To make matters worse, Bernie Sanders, who leads Clinton to make matters worse, we got this guy, Bernie Sanders, who leads Clinton in both New Hampshire and Iowa, has produced a new video ad, America, a wordless feel hope montage that is awfully good enough that I can't help feeling both moved by it and resentful that it works on me. Maybe, just maybe, shoot the panda. That's what this article says. RH ain't making it up. So many people, even former three-letter agency types like NSA types and that kind of thing, said that information had to be downloaded at the local level, at the DNC level. Remember, Seth Rich, as far as my understanding, was an IT guy, right? I won't go back because they want to sue you because they want to keep your mouth shut, right? Now, I hope and pray Seth Rich is still alive. But the official story is, even from, I'm pretty sure, the Capitol Police and Metropolitan Police Department, the official story is that he was shot in the back and he died later in a medical facility, like an urgent care place in Washington, D.C. From my understanding, he was in a stable condition when he passed away. I don't know if that's all that's, but anyways, again, I'm not accusing anybody of doing any wrongdoing here. I'm just sharing the information and letting people draw their own conclusions or opinions. Okay, so there's only one person now listening to my live stream on Rumble now. So they are really, really throttling this channel back, even in my opinion, on Rumble. Maybe they're saying something. I'm saying something that maybe I shouldn't say that maybe there's an ongoing investigation or investigations plural regarding this information I'm sharing tonight. So I know, again, my heart and prayers goes out to Charlie Kirk's loved ones, family members, his wife, his two children, and all his friends and everyone that worked with him. That was a great stand-up guy. And I'll tell you one thing right now, Charlie Kirk is a brave end, and he got I think it was the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I think it's something like the highest award bestowed on a civilian. And I admit myself, because of all the false labeling of us, especially by, let's just say it, the media that reads scripts, that reads their scripts. They've libel sounded us. They've called us Nazis and everything, racist, homophobes, xenophobes, a basketful or whatever, right? They've used every term that you can imagine about us. And remember, during the Summer of Love, they were actually setting up a donation fund where they could bail out criminals to get them back out on the street right away. Remember, that's their MO. That's their MO. Now, to coincide with all this, we have all these people, some say 15 million people that came across that border for those 4 years, from January 20th to 2021 to January 20th of 2025. For all those years, 4 years, they helped direct and facilitate an invasion into our country. knowing what the Constitution. Well, they don't know. They don't care. So they went out. They created treaties or whatever with foreign countries to help facilitate and direct innovation. But they went against Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, which again states, Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution states, they facilitated and directed unlawful, unconstitutional invasion, which is high crimes, because they knew what was coming into our country, that they were facilitating and directing and bringing it into our country. Now, if they go out there and they support criminals, hardened criminals, by setting up funding and donations to go to bail people out, to pay their bail, to get them back out on the street again during their so-called summer of love months and all the violence that ensued. Don't we think there needs to be accountability for that too? Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution reads, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature against domestic violence. The President of the United States' job, his main job, it says the United States. The President of the United States is the executive chief. The President of the United States, the executive officer, the highest officer in our land to execute the law, the Constitution. This was basically when he gave his oath, he basically gave an oath to promise that he would uphold the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. Right? That was his oath. This is his oath, which is in the Constitution. You got to uphold the oath. And if they broke the law, they committed high crimes, and you could say maybe treason because they facilitated and directed an invasion into our country, which coincided with a foreign military and terrorist insurgency into our country. I've talked about this multiple times. They brought in cells into our country that will be activated. They brought in these teams. What do you call the guy that, okay, ASS, you know what I mean? Nation. S in nation. Right? So y'all know that. So remember, I'm not calling for illegal activity or vigilantes going out there and taking the law in their own hand. But we have to legally pressure the judicial branch of government, the executive branch of government, and the legislative branch of government upholding their oath of office. If they facilitated and directed an invasion and they were part of it and they're an official, I don't know, from the federal level all the way to the United States level, all the way down to the state level and local level, need to be arrested. Okay, it's still 9/11, 2001. It's still 9/11 as far as East Coast time. It's still 10:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in America. It is not 9/12 yet. 2025. Let me repeat that again. This is September 11th, 2025, 10:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's not begun. September 12th, 2025 has not hit yet. There's a very good reason why I'm saying that. This is Thursday. September 11th, 2025. September 12th of 2025 has not arrived yet. Remember, we have to hold all branches of government if they help and they were part of facilitating and directing an invasion into our country to overthrow the United States, to overthrow our country. They brought in approximately 20 million people that we know of. There's estimates that can maybe less than that or more than that. To cause domestic violence. When whatever they said, maybe shoot the panda. What? I don't know about anybody else, but those cute little pandas out there that look like a teddy bear, those are protected species, I believe. And so are humans. Now, let's read this again. The commandment. We're Christians. You can't just sit there, okay, well, it's not all right. After Noah's Ark laid to rest in the mountains of Ararat, in the area of the borders of Iran, Turkey, and Armenia, the ark came to rest. What was one of the first commandments that God gave Noah, Noah's wife, Shem's wife, Japheth and Japheth's wife, and Ham and Ham's wife? Now, there's probably people out there shouting behind the scene in their own homes, shut up, RH. We don't want to be lectured to. I'm to listen. I'm preaching with the choir here. Murder is a capital crime. Conspiring to murder somebody or individuals is a crime. Setting people up in the kill box, conspiring to do that, like they did President Trump, is a crime. And I don't care if you're a judge or whatever, and you let these people off and you let them go free. In my opinion, that's a crime too. Especially if they commit another crime and you help facilitate it by basically setting up funds to basically bail criminals out so they continue to conduct criminal activity. That's why there should be a class action lawsuit for anybody who identifies himself as MAGA with all this nonstop libel slander, continuously gaslighting very troubled people to carry out certain acts of violence against us and against people of the same faith. Okay, this is Genesis chapter 9. Verse 3. Genesis chapter 9, verse 3. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it. At the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother, will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he man. Okay, going back to Numbers real quick, bear with me. We're still in the 5 books of Moses. Genesis and Numbers is in the 5 books of Moses. I believe it's Numbers chapter 35, verse 30. Whoso killeth any person. Now there's going to be a stipulation of God right here. What he means by killeth. Whoso killeth any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses, but one witness shall not testify against any person to cause him to die. Okay? Whoso murdered any of mankind, which includes women, a woman, and women and men, right? The commandment, thou shalt not murder, right? How are you going to have a civil society if you go out there and you support criminals to go out there? Remember, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Remember all the scripts they read? Remember how many times they false witness to basically get troubled people to go out and commit violence against honest, innocent, God-fearing and respecting people? This has happened many, many times. Everybody's got a right to free speech, but no, there are laws we got to follow. Remember, and you shall take no satisfaction for the life of a murderer, which is guilty of death, but he shall surely be put to death. Remember, whoso killeth any person, this is Numbers chapter 35, verse 30. Whoso killeth any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses, but one witness shall not testify against any person to cause him to die. Remember, it's our word against theirs. Did Trump have that ability when you're talking about Eugene, whatever? What happened to his word? What happened to his due process? Moreover, ye shall take no satisfaction of the life of a murderer, which is guilty of death, but he shall be surely put to death. That's God's commandments. That's not RH making this stuff as it goes along. Remember, to stipulate what the commandment says in the KJV, right? To stipulate. 10 Commandments begin on page 222 of my authorized KJV version. Remember, thou shalt not kill. God stipulated, whosoever killeth any person, right? Whoso killeth any person, the murderer shall be put to death. Remember, it talks about due process. One person can't accuse you of doing something that you didn't do and to falsely imprison them, like they tried to do to President Trump multiple times. They've gotten away with it because of the judicial, corrupt people in the judicial system, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Neither shalt thou steal. Neither shalt thou bear false witness against thy neighbor. So you can say, okay, lying about somebody because you just don't like them. Oh, that's a what do you call it? Make America great again person. Okay, it goes on with adultery, and we shouldn't be worshiping other gods, lowercase g gods. We're bowing down to them, and thou shalt not take the Lord thy God's name in vain, and keep the Sabbath day to sanctify as the Lord thy God had commanded thee. Sanctify the seventh day, right? When did God sanctify that? Well, it's very simple. You go back to Genesis, I believe it's chapter 2. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 2 at the very beginning, right? Real quick. Thus the Genesis chapter 2, verse 1. Where did God sanctify the seventh day of rest? Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God had ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. Did God create an edict called Sol Invictus? You have to go look that up yourself. It was an edict, Sol Invictus. Did any man, as far as our belief, our faith, to decide what other day they want to sanctify? Yeah, you can if you want to. That's, you're right, I guess. You can sanctify every day of the week. You know what I'm saying, though? So without the 10 Commandments, you're looking at thou shalt not steal, honor thy parents, right? Honor thy mother and father. Without the 10 Commandments, if you think about it, just following those 10. Of course, we got other laws too. We got ordinances and all that kind of thing. If you go back and you look at Numbers chapter 15, verse 15, those applied too back then, right? So one law. So I think that's very important. And that's basically where our founders got our law. That's how, remember, Jethro's telling Moses, giving him advice. So, man, you're burning yourself out, man. You're hearing every single complaint, right? Every single complaint you're hearing, either small, medium, or great matters, right? And Jethro basically recommended to Moses that he breaks down the judging the courtroom into, lower courts, medium, high courts, like maybe appellate courts, and then there would be like the Supreme Court that he was running while he was on the judge's seat, right? Okay, so that's where we got our laws from. That's the origins of our laws. And without following at least the 10 Commandments, or part of the 10 Commandments, like thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not false witness against others, thou shalt not murder, without those, you can never have a civil society. That's common sense, right? Whether you like Christians or not, that's what we go by if you're a practicing Christian. How can you be a Christian if you're not even practicing and you're not even talking about the Word of God when these things come up like this? And now I know everybody's not going to follow this. Probably is not going to follow that in far as their actions, but you know how you, when you actually you make a touchdown and you're in the zone and you spike the ball. When it comes to people, yeah, we will thank people that are actually upholding the law and following the Constitution, like Article 4, Section 4, right? We're going to basically thank them. But just think about these people that are very troubled, a lot of them very troubled. For anyone to go out there and do something like that, you know what we're talking about, or even call for it, they're mentally disturbed. At least that's my opinion. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not giving medical opinions. That's just my personal opinion based on life experiences. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or the executive against domestic violence. I want to thank Derek Johnson because he's the only guy out there that has social media. He's got a large following than myself, I do believe. Thank him because he's the first person that I've heard read Article 4, Section 4. And these huge channels, this is the authorization, the supreme law of the land. Where do you get that, RH? That the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. The Constitution, the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. Anything contrary to the U.S. Constitution, like I said, they should be out there making laws to break laws or making these flunky treaties like to help facilitate and direct an invasion into our country. Knowing that there were terrorists that came across, knowing that during the invasion it helped facilitate and direct a foreign military and terrorist insurgency into our country. Listen, they had the intel. All these governors had the intel. They read the intel too. The intel goes down to the sheriff level, as far as the executive branch level, down to the county sheriffs, whatever, the local sheriffs. They know what the law is. The United States, the President of the United States and the Commander-in-Chief is supposed to help guarantee against domestic violence. How can you do it when you got people like Pelosi and Schumer in the actually White House during his first term, criminally obstructing the President of the United States from securing our own border? Knowing all those laws were being broken. You just use fentanyl alone. All the deaths associated with fentanyl alone from people using that border invasion to come in to traffic, drugs, weapons, humans, children, bioweapons. Okay? So, we shouldn't even have to say this anymore. Now, if my voice is loud, it's because I have a living soul. We are all in pain when you see stuff like that happening. And all I got to say is, people be right because no one knows the day or the hour. No one knows the day or hour. Not even Yeshua, our true Messiah, knows the day or the hour. Okay? I want to, so I don't, or Yeshua. Remember? Yah. Hallelujah. Remember? Remember Psalm 68:4? Sing unto God, sing praises to his name, extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Yah, and rejoice before him. Yah. That's the short version of Jehovah or Yahweh. Okay? I understand why a lot of people don't want to. I'm not trying to turn God into like a man or a creature. God forbid. I'm just trying to say Yahshua. Okay? Yeshua is Aramaic. You go to Hebrews chapter 4, verse 8, they literally shut me down again. For those that are still here on Rumble, okay, you're going to have some dead air time. Hopefully, it's only for a few seconds. Think I should be back up, and hopefully, we're live. So it's kind of funny, right? When I start reading scriptures, right, I have to refresh, and they're about to take my channel down. So about maybe a minute, there's dead air time. So I read, far as the name, Hebrews chapter 4, verse 8, the translated name. I was talking about why it's important to use the real names as they were spoken in the language, you know, that they're spoken in, especially Hebrew language. Yeshua or Yahshua is brought up by a Hebrew family. They basically respected the festivals and that kind of thing. Uh, And so that said, Yeshua had a Hebrew name. He read from the original Hebrew manuscripts. Remember, he's reading from those manuscripts before the New Testament was ever written. So remember, Yeshua, Yah is short for, and I'll explain it to everyone so they know, because there's a lot of people out there that have never learned this before. So we're using the scriptures, right? We're using the scriptures. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 8. That's where I think I was at when we were lost the audio and had to refresh. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 8. The name Jesus is translated. For if Jesus, there's a translation, capital T next to his name, had given them rest, then would he not afterward have spoken of another day? The translated name for Jesus is Joshua in English, Yahshua in Hebrew, Yeshua in Aramaic. Okay, and the reason why, remember, the devil is wroth because he knows his time is short. So let's go to, again, real quick, the book of why it's important to basically call Yahshua, at least very important in my opinion, because the name Yahshua has power. Yahshua has power. What's the name Yahshua stand for? What's the meaning of the name Yahshua? The title of this book, this is the summary of the book, the introduction of the book of Joshua. Everybody can go out there that has the introductions in the KJV approved Bible. The title of this book is appropriately named after its central figure, Joshua. His original name is Hosea, salvation. Evidently, Moses evidently changes it to Yehoshua. That's the full name. Yahshua is his nickname. Yeshua is his nickname. And it means, what does that name mean? Now, I heard from a rabbi that they named Joshua the son of Nun because he saved the tribes of Israel. Okay, so, and that's a very smart rabbi too, by the way. The name Yehoshua, which is the full name that Joshua the son of Nun had, the same name as those that call him Jesus had, Yahshua. The name means, Yehoshua means, the whole name means Yahweh is salvation. You can say Jehovah is salvation, right, if you want to. Yahweh is salvation. Okay, so what are we saying here? Why am I saying that? Okay, go to John chapter 3:16. Why am I saying that? Yahweh is salvation. This is, a lot of Christians don't know this. A lot of people out there that identify themselves as Christians, they don't know this. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Again, the name Yehoshua means Yahweh or God is salvation. Okay? And there's actually in Numbers chapter 13, verse 16, you can get the original name of Joshua, the son of Nun. Okay, so why is the dragon wroth? Why is the dragon angry? Because he knows his time is short. But who's he going to direct his anger against? This is very important for people that knowingly are attacking innocent people, or unknowingly, or are possessed or whatever, or demonized, or they got a lot of problems. This is Revelation chapter 12, verse 17. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Yeshua, our Messiah, or as they say here in Revelation chapter 12, verse 17, Jesus Christ. That's why the dragon is wroth. That's why you see all these attacks. That's why you see this demonic like activity, or people transforming right before your eyes. Their voices changing into multiple different voices, meaning they have a multiple personality disorder, or they're possessed by demons. This is what we're seeing. I mean, right before us almost every day now. And the dragon was wroth, and not to add or take away from the book of Revelation, okay? And the dragon was wroth with the woman, okay? What dragon am I referring to? And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. That's Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. Not to add or take away. We need to read the entire book, all the books of the Bible, not to add to, or take away. Right? So, anyways, the seed of the woman. The dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. With the remnant of what? Which seed are we talking about? Remember back in Genesis, the very beginning? Remember that serpent? That old serpent, also called the dragon? That great dragon. He's got many names. The old serpent, called the devil and Satan. Okay? And this is Genesis chapter 3, verse 9, real quick. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou should not eat? And the man said, The woman whom thou gavest to me, be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me. That's translated beguiled to deceived. Beguiled me, or seduced, right? And I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and the dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. So the old serpent, right? Beguiled Eve. So what seed is the serpent still attacking, going after? And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Okay? So please, if you come in late to the live stream, please go back and review the information. Now, I apologize for the dead air time. I have to pay very close attention to they call that preempting. Preempting is the ability to basically use technology to actually prevent. It's kind of like a lag switch. Gamers term the lag switch. You can basically disconnect their live stream real quick. And if you don't connect yourself back to your live stream or back in the whatever you're doing as far as gaming is concerned, if you do not basically connect that link back to your network, you will lose your, let's call it, okay, event or episode. Now, you can archive a lot of stuff. I won't go into all that. But anyways, preempting is basically pulling the plug of your network, your Wi-Fi, whatever. And if you do not refresh real quick, you're going to lose your live stream. They've done that to me many times. I'm just basically, I can catch it. And they're not really too worried about me, but they do not want some of these messages to be put out. And you could tell who's behind it because, well, we know who their boss is, right? Revelation chapter 9, verse 11. Revelation chapter 9, verse 11 basically tells us who their boss is. Maybe that's the reason why they use that day. And they like to telegraph what they're going to do before they do it, right? So these are very important verses in the scripture. And I like to basically say this again. You see the picture of a UFO in Turkey. I shared that information on a previous live stream. So if you're interested in that, okay, that photograph was taken from, let's see. You can go to the channel on YouTube, Turkey UFO Incident. There's videos you can watch. That's one of the clearest video recording. There's a video clip there from somebody with their handheld telephone starting a video recording that what they saw was they believe was a UFO. Now that could be what they call the manta, but this happened over Amar Sea, I think, in Turkey. But anyways, if you want to watch that clip, okay, it says Turkey UFO Incident. Now, this is the title of the YouTube video is 2008 UFO in Kumburgaz. That's Kumburgac, Turkey over Marmara Sea, right? Genuine. Okay, so this video was taken. That's the clearest video I have of what they claim to be as a UFO. Now that could have been a manta or advanced, but I don't think it will be flying in Turkey airspace. And now, 2008, we remember we already had the B-2 bomber, and whenever I first saw the B-2 after it was revealed fly overhead, I mean, probably was only at 500 feet above my head. When that thing flew overhead, it looked like it skipped across the sky. Now I saw the B-2. That was an air show back in Shaw Air Force Base, South Carolina, when I saw that air show, and that B-2 flew right over me. Now, it might be an optical kind of like disruption. I don't know how to describe it, because remember, that's a stealth aircraft, right? It evades surveillance. So is that what had something to do with it? What makes it appear it skips in the sky overhead? Now, that's the first time that I was at a live air show with, like the Thunderbirds or the Blue Angels or whatever, and seen a B-2 flyover. And that's how I described it. Now, if you think about before Operation Desert Storm, Operation Desert Storm, if I saw something that flew overhead that looked like the B-2 at that time, back in the 90s, or when I came in 78, in the Air Force, I was working for NORAD in 1978 already. No, excuse me, I correct myself, 79 to 81. If I saw in 1979 a B-2 bomber flying overhead only about 500 feet, I couldn't describe it. I couldn't identify it. I couldn't identify what aircraft that was. Now, if it was an F-106 or a F-4 or something like that, I could identify that aircraft back then. If it was a Harrier, I could identify the aircraft based on its characteristics. But at that time, back in those days, it would have been an unidentified flying object from myself. Doesn't mean it's of extraterrestrial origin. Now, same to go with this video here. So I just like to say that out there. And I've seen aircraft perform maneuvers that, and they can evade radar. They can evade radar. Not only back then, before they had the F-117 and the stealth fighter F-117, or the B-2 or any other stealth aircraft like the F-22, back in those days, they probably had stuff that could evade surveillance detection. Okay, so with that said, remember, names are important. Yahweh saves. Jehovah saves, right? That's what the name Yahshua means. And okay, go back. Remember, Yehoshua is the full name. Yeshua is the nickname. It even says that in the book of Joshua. His name was Yeshua, as far as what they say in the introduction of the book of Joshua, right? And what the name is. So it's very important to know the name, especially the names have a meaning like that. So anyways, and go back to this. The title of this book is appropriately named after a central figure, Joshua. His original name is Hosea, salvation, but Moses evidently changed it to Yahoshua. Yahweh is salvation. So you want to learn about Yahweh or Jehovah, you can look that up. Exodus chapter 6, verse 2. Okay, you want to go back and look at the tetragram, the 4 letters, without the vowels, and you get all that, and that's self-explanatory, right? Exodus chapter 6, verse 2, verse 1. Then the Lord said, Exodus chapter 6, verse 1, then the Lord said unto Moses, now shalt thou see what I will do to Pharaoh. For with a strong hand shall he let them go, and with a strong hand shall he drive them out of his land. And God spake unto Moses and said unto him, I am the Lord. Okay. In the Hebrew, the tetragram is YHWH for Yahweh saves, right? So, but there's not a W in the Hebrew Aleph Bet. So there's actually a V. Yahweh. Yahweh. So people argue with me. I'm not going to argue about a letter. Okay. This all gets backed up. Yah. You put the Y-A-H. Remember Psalms chapter 68, verse 4. You can verify it. You can rewind this. And then it goes on further. Exodus chapter 6, verse 2. And I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob by the name of God Almighty, but my name, Jehovah, was I not known to them. Okay, so if you take the tetragram of J, because J wasn't even contrived, it was Middle High German. The letter J came out like Yah, like yes, like J-A, Yah, right? In the German language, the J didn't even come out to the middle, I think, 9th century. Middle 9th century, the letter J itself. So the go back to the tetragram in Hebrew. What does it say? Does it say JHVH? Does it say JHVH? No, it says YH, should be VH, because in the Hebrew Aleph Bet, there's not a letter J and there's not a letter W. Okay, so using that and plug in the tetragram YHVH into Jehovah, then it would be YHVH. You see how that works with the H on the end of Jehovah? Okay, so that's where they got it from. And then even after that, after the translation of Jehovah, what do they give us? Hebrew, YH, that's Yahweh. YHVH, Yahweh, with an H on the end. Okay? Yah, again, Psalms chapter 68, verse 4. Now, for those that are new students to Christianity, I refer y'all to, let's see, hold on a second. I already said Hebrews chapter 4, verse 8. Okay. I refer y'all back to Hebrews chapter 4, verse 8 again, and Revelation, and read all of Revelation. Don't add or take away from Revelation. At the end of this, there's a warning, and there's a reason why I'm saying that. Okay, so let me just read this, and this is the red print. Very important. We share the word of God, right? And we know who that is. Okay. The name, Yehoshua means Yahweh saves. It's going back to, remember we have Latin, the Latin language, and remember the original printing presses and all that stuff? There had to be translations done, right? If you want to look into the translations of the original KJ or the KJV, 1611 KJV, look up William Tyndale. He helped basically translate the original Hebrew manuscripts from what we call the Old Testament into English, and he helped translate the original Greek manuscripts, which is in the New Testament, into English. Okay, so it's important to know what those names mean. Okay, so going to Matthew chapter 24. It's very important for everybody to be ready, right? This is beginning Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And then they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And then he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Okay? Remember, immediately after the tribulation of those days is when we're taken up, right? Let's just read it the way it's written. The Word of God is translated into English. We don't need to try to understand parables or analogies or any of that thing. It's written in plain English. And why? What is one of the precursors for Yeshua, the Son of God, of returning with 144,000? What is a precursor to that? And because inequity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Now, inequity, there's a translated word of lawless, and the word wax, there's a translated word in our language to grow. I'm going to read it with the translated words. Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And because lawlessness shall abound, the love of many shall grow cold. That's Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And remember, it goes on to say, and Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet come. The end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. His true name's sake, right? And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. Because inequity or lawlessness shall abound, the love of many shall wax or grow cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the nations of the world, preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Okay, so I'm not going to read that. Let's go to Daniel real quick. This is important. This is important. Immediately, remember, this is one of the precursors before the second coming. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Okay, now stars is basically the fallen ones, right? Remember those that are kicked out of heaven? Okay, so let's go to Daniel real quick to help try. And basically, using the internet, our knowledge has grown, and they got AI coming out. Our knowledge is basically accelerating at a very, very fast pace. Our knowledge is growing, is accelerating at a very, very fast pace. Let's just say that. Okay. The book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the firmament, and they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. And they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. So those that be wise and turn people to righteousness, turning people away from criminal activity and breaking the law, they're basically, like an analogy, turned as stars. They'll be as stars. So remember, the devil and his angels, a third in heaven, was cast out. Okay, so so what was Charlie Kirk trying to do? He was wise, in my opinion, and they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. We're running to and fro on the internet, basically using the search bar, and our knowledge is growing exponentially. What do you call it? At a greater, far greater pace than it ever was before the internet came into being. If we're doing it, if we're using the platform to turn people to righteousness and even ourselves to righteousness, do we not think that God would approve from it? And I hope that's what AI turns out to be. Okay? Then I, Daniel, remember it says, we're going to be rewarded. And they that shall be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time and times and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. Okay, so that's just be ready. Be ready. Have your oil lamps filled, right? Because we don't know the day or hour, right? So with that said, in God we trust. Everybody else, trust but verify, right? Everything. Again, my heart and prayers goes out to, it's only 11:54. It's still, this is very important. September, of those that fell on 9/11 and Charlie Kirk. In God we trust. Good morning, good evening, good day, wherever you're from. This concludes the live stream, and God bless. Thank you.